What would be the top 3 back exercises if you could only pick 3 for the rest of your life? Because I feel like for some of the other body parts, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like that'd be interesting to hear.
3 exercises for each body part.
Yeah. Any specific tips that you would give to somebody who's training over the age of 50? Anything you would do differently compared to when you're younger?
Well, I would definitely lower the amount of weight.
Yeah.
The first thing you got to do is you got to always assess where the person's at. Even if they're a competitive bodybuilder, I don't feel like you really need to be able to push PRs at that age. Even when you get into your 40s, I would really stop doing the extreme weight, because we can go down a lot of roads with this, but if you're a person who just really starts to swing a lot of your weight around, you're more likely to either tear a muscle or you're more likely to hurt yourself. And then you're going to end up being really, really depressed because you can't be able to train for months and sometimes up to years, depending on how bad the injury is. So cut back the weight, really get the mind muscle connection going, use exercises where you really focus on those particular body parts that you're trying to grow the most, and try not to sit there and try to pick PRs every workout and every week.
So it's more like training smarter, not harder in that situation?
Yes.
Okay. 3 exercises for each body part that you could choose for the rest of your life if you could only pick 3 for each one. But we're going to be getting into a lot of different stuff. So let me just say this. What would be the top 3 back exercises if you could only pick 3 for the rest of your life? Because I feel like for some of the other body parts, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like that'd be interesting to hear.
3 exercises for each body part.
Yeah.
Okay, so for back, I would say a pull-up, a row.
Any specific row? Barbell row?
Yeah, barbell.
Over or underhand?
I love underhand rows.
Yep.
That would be the second. The third, that's tough. I would have to say either it would be another variation of a row, like a one-arm dumbbell row, or a pullover. Yeah, one of those two.
Cable pullovers?
Or machine pullover. Like a pullover machine.
Do you have another body part you want to throw out 3 exercises for?
I mean, legs are easy.
Yeah.
I would just say leg curl, leg extension, and squat.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just the go-tos.
I know that I was surprised when I remember at a previous podcast, I asked you what your number 1 piece of equipment was. You only had to pick 1. I believe you said the belt squat, which is very surprising. Was not expecting that one.
Yeah, I love the belt squat because
I saw The Rock using it earlier today.
Was he?
He posted it, yeah.
Yeah,
Belt squat.
I think the belt squat takes off so much pressure off of your back.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these issues that a lot of people are talking about right now have to do with nerve endings that are being just literally crushed by people having back problems from heavy squats. And I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that they're not thinking long term about their spine health. And I feel like all of you athletes out there, whether it's your males or females, you have to consider your spine as something that's very similar to, like, now a lot of coaches that are in the NFL and just in a lot of different professional athletes and sports, they look at shoulders and knees, and you have to look at your spine. I don't know why. Bodybuilding, your spine is so important. And I feel like the compression of discs have a lot to do with it. And I talked to Farron a lot about it because Farron obviously is a chiropractor. And it's one of those that I feel like people don't put enough emphasis on. I think they did for a little short time, maybe early 2000s. Ronnie Coleman used to talk about it a little bit. But I think that even with all of the things that he did to proactively try to recover and be able to get therapies,
there's only so much you can do when you're only so heavy.
700-pound squats and crazy deads.
Yeah.
All of those things eventually will catch up to you. And I think you have to really consider how you can try to work around some of those different problems.
Yeah.
The only regret I had is when I was doing that 800-pound squat. I didn't do 6 reps because I knew I had 6 in me, but I didn't know that until I put it up because that was my first time ever trying it.
Yeah.
If I'd have done it, before that day, I'd have got 6 easy reps on camera, and I would have been fully satisfied. But because I didn't do it, That's the only regret I ever have in the sport. That's the only regret, because I knew, and as soon as I put it up, I said to myself, man, that was light. It was light for real, you know?
Yeah. You had, I know in the previous podcast, or the one before Derek, you had mentioned something about the nerve damage and things like that people are experiencing. And I know that there was a lot of questions about that. And so I think that you had, said we might want to cover that on its own subject.
Yeah, we will. But I mean, we can talk about it right now a little bit too, because with FSC7, that's one of the reasons why I created FSC7, because I wanted to engorge the muscle with blood to create a more three-dimensional image of that muscle while it's on stage. So it's not just the graininess, but it's also that roundness and that fullness. And that's what comes with volume training.
Yeah.
So the density comes from heavier weights, but if you limit that and you just make sure that you work within a guidelines of, it needs to be a certain amount of resistance. You can't just use light weights or medium weights. You got to use heavy, but without getting too crazy where you end up having a risk versus reward. So you'd be like, okay, now if I have to risk here, but the reward is here, then you got to be able to say, okay, is it really worth it for that extra 50 or 100 pound squat? How about if I just increase my reps another 3 to 5 reps? I'm going to get a lot more time under tension out of that. I'm going to get more mind muscle connection out of that. I'm going to be able to keep my form together. I'm going to be able to make sure that I'm not going to destroy my back or my knees. I'm less likely to get hurt. So many different things. And I feel like you have to really take all those things in consideration. And then when you do FSC7, then you have shorter rest periods.
Yeah.
So then you can really work on being able to try to do that. And then you do FSC7 supersets where you're doing 2 different exercises back to back to engorge the blood, the blood flow into that muscle so that you can stretch the fascia and get even rounder and fuller and just really trigger a hyper response. So all of those things that I discuss a lot, or I used to, even back 20 years ago, it really is important, but I feel like one absolute method is not what it's about. It's about trying to be able to find your formula for what your body needs and how your body grows the best. Because when I train somebody, I don't sit down and say, okay, this is all we're going to do.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to say, okay, well, let's increase the volume here, but where are the other body parts that we can be able to get a little bit stronger still? Because a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, but where can we handle more volume on other body parts?